Hey everybody, welcome to Improv Town. I'm Clayton Mashad, and this is the podcast where I interview my favorite improvisers from Rhode Island and afar about an improv topic I think they're great at. In today's episode, I interview Kaisa Kokko. This is an interview I got to do while she was in Rhode Island teaching and performing at the Ocean State Improv Festival. Kaisa is an improviser, director, and communication skills instructor from Finland. She studied music, special education. She got her master's degree in education. She studied improv at IO Chicago, Unexpected Productions in Seattle, as well as under a bunch of other great teachers from all around the world. In addition to her home country of Finland, Kaisa has taught and performed improv all over Europe and the United States, as well as cool places like Costa Rica and Peru. And in this episode, we talk about teaching and touring internationally, doing improv in your second language, and her appreciation for silence in improv. And just a heads up, we recorded this episode outside on the back deck of the Contemporary Theater in Wakefield, right on the banks of the Saugatucket River, and we were trying to capture the soundscape of Wakefield in June, and we managed to pick up some pretty sweet bird sounds, but there are a few times where we also picked up some wind. So there are 2 or 3 points where things get choppy for a few seconds, but it's pretty short-lived, so don't freak out because this is a great interview. Oh yeah, and we also get to talk about my improv crush, Susan Messing. So stay tuned for that. As always, don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. Now on to the interview. So where were you before in New York?
I came straight from home, from Finland.
Oh, cool.
I did. Now this is the starting point of my tour in England,
in
the United States. Yeah, for this summer.
Where else are you going?
I'm doing Chicago next week.
Sweet. To teach or to...
No, I'm only going to be there for 4 days, and I'm going to see some friends. I'm going to meet up with some colleagues, and we're going to discuss about some future possible plans. Oh. And then I'm going to Seattle for another festival, and then I'm going to Portland to teach, and then I'm going to Bellingham to teach, and then I'm going to Vancouver to teach, and then I'm going to Calgary to teach, and then I'm going to it's going to be a nice tour.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
that you're able to.
It's wonderful.
Do that professionally.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate that.
All right, so we'll start with some intro questions. So, how did you start doing improv?
What happened was I lived in a small village in Finland. That's where I'm from, and we hosted this annual storytelling competition. But it was like not whatever story, but it was about like old Finnish tales, and people would come and they would tell their stories. And one year, 2 guys came up, and one of them won the competition, and the second came the runner-up, and they were absolutely amazing, both of them. And I went to talk with them afterwards, and I was like, wow, that was so cool. And they were like, yeah, well, even though these stories were kind of known, but we're both improvisers. And I was like, and I had already done theatre for like 10 years. But I was like, an improvised theatre, that's so cool. And I knew that I was going to move into that town where they lived, or in that city. And I was like, I'm really interested in this. And then when I moved and I went to see them, and I was like, I want to do this. And then when they had the auditions the next time, I applied and I got in, and I got totally sucked into this world. And that was 12 years ago.
And so were they doing like narrative storytelling?
Yeah. Yes.
Type improv?
Yeah. But they were doing a lot of different kind of, like they did short, and we do, still do, in that theatre company, we do short form and we do long form, but the main focus at that time, and I think still is to some extent, is like a fully improvised plays.
Yeah. Those are super cool.
Yes.
Yeah. We just did Whodunit here, which was like our murder mystery.
Yes. Yes, and I found that so cool because last year when I was here, I was talking with Chris about like we've done the murder mystery for a few years, and we talked a lot about it. He got really excited about that. He's like, yeah, because we're gonna do that too.
We did it. It was great.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's awesome I feel like it was particularly great for our theater that is both like a dramatic theater and an improvised theater, because normally it would be hard to. If it was just an improv show, you'd only get the improv audience. And if it was just a scripted murder mystery, you'd just get the scripted audience, basically. So by like having it combined, we ended up having like way bigger shows than we normally have for either, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super sweet. Yeah.
So I feel like it's definitely, for theaters that do both, it's a great idea. And so then how did you start like traveling internationally and teaching and doing workshops?
Well, we invited a lot of teachers to come and teach us in Finland at the early stage of my improv career, and we had people like Sean Kinley and Steve Durand and a lot of different people coming up, and I was like, this is cool, people are doing this all over the world. And then the Finnish Improv Festival, the international festival, kicked off 6 years ago, and that was the first time that I was on an international improv festival in Finland, and that kind of like opened up the whole world of, okay, I need to do a lot more of this because I need to see other things. And that's how I started to travel, and I started to first perform in a lot of different countries and did a lot of different festivals, but I was already teaching back home, and I was like, maybe I have something to provide to people abroad as well.
Yeah.
And then that's how it started, and now I'm doing it all the time.
And so, it's interesting because I don't think like international festivals are as popular in America because they're just more American festivals and stuff. But I know that even like in Canada, and with a lot of the Johnstonian like improv scene, the international festivals are like a big deal.
Yeah, and they're huge now. There are new festivals popping up like in Europe like every year. So there's so many to choose from at the moment. Yeah.
I guess now this is an international festival,
It
right?
is.
Thanks to you. Are you the only?
No, there's actually another improviser from Finland here as well, and then there's one from Austria, and there's some from England. So
I should do a set in Finnish.
Yeah, we should.
Maybe it might be a great example of how like if you do good object work and do good physicality, that maybe it'll reinforce the idea behind the gibberish.
Yes, and I actually feel, and I believe in the fact that I'm a better improviser in English in many ways than I am in Finnish, because my English is obviously not perfect and it's not my native tongue, so it forces me to react and to feel and to do things in a different way than it would if I would just, have a perfect Finnish, I could say whatever. So I feel like...
Yeah, it's super interesting. Yeah, that was something I wanted to ask you about, how you do most of your improv in your second language in English. So do you feel like that's helped you with like learning English too?
Well, my English was fairly fluent when I started doing improv in English, but it is different for sure, and especially when I do a lot of improv with a lot of different people, and when I do a lot of improvised theatre with native English speakers, sometimes it's like, wow, and I might say before a show, guys, I'm not a native English speaker, so there might be some words or some, like, especially because in the United States, I feel like people do a lot of pop culture references, for example. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm just going along with it.
Right, yeah, that's probably an important thing to think about, that you probably gets reinforced when you do international. Because even now, I think people overuse it, not in the sense of it being bad, but that even half the time the American, only half of the people know get the references anyway. Have you ever done improv with someone who you guys don't have any common language, like someone who...
Yeah, we some years ago we did on a festival, we did a show with a guy who was from Japan, and he was amazing, and I think that he had like 10 to 15 English words all in his vocabulary, and it was superb. It was so fun. It was super, super amazing.
And so did you guys was it like in English, but he only knew just very limited?
It was both in English and with some gibberish, and then with silent work as well. Yeah.
That's cool.
And last year we did on a festival in Tallinn in Estonia, we did a show with an improviser from the Reunion Island, Keng Sam, who taught a workshop about gibberish, and we did a whole show, an international show with like people from I think maybe 8 different countries, only in gibberish. The whole show, like 45-minute show, and that was amazing.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like English not being a first language has affected like your non-verbal communication and listening?
Surely.
Yeah, because you have to pay more attention to physical cues as opposed to...
And also I have to pay more attention to what people are saying, because I feel like still a lot of the time, even though when we do improvised theatre, and I feel like one of the most important things is to fully and truly listen to the other people, and not only listen to in order to talk back, but instead listen to understand.
Right.
So that I feel like that's also one of the things that I listen really carefully when I do improvised theatre with a non-Finnish speaker. Yeah.
Yeah, so more what are they trying to say?
Yeah.
As opposed to just the words.
Just like words that are coming like, and I'm just like absorbing them. I'm just going with that.
So let's talk more about your teaching style. So you have a master's degree in education.
Yes.
Is that, knowing your career path now, is that something you would do again?
Oh, definitely. I feel like for me, teaching all in all on education, I feel like it's one of the only ways to fully be able to make a change in the world. And I think that it's super important that we have the tools to give to the future generations to be able to communicate better. And so I feel like that's something that I would like to do, even though I would be doing anything at all. But now when I'm an improv teacher, obviously the studies that I've had before and the experience that I've had teaching different things have made me understand probably some of the ways that improv can also be taught. And I don't even really know if that's the right way to say it, but to provide a platform where people feel the security and the safety to try out new things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about improv, I was listening to a podcast the other day that was kind of liking it to like the closest to a state of like prayer or a state of meditation. And like I feel like in my own life, like in my day-to-day, I'm never really listening. Like you're always thinking about something else that you should be doing. And I'm super bad with names, and that carries over to improv. But even when I'm like meeting people and they're like telling me their name, I'm not even like listening to their name. I'm thinking about like what is the social, like what is my next social response supposed to be?
Yes.
But when you're doing improv, you can't do that at all. You have to be so present and so listening, and I feel like it's like the only time that I get where my brain like isn't racing and doing those other things simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I do feel like it is both like a meditative experience, but then also it gives you experience really listening to people and not having your own like preconceived ideas of what's going on. So do you do corporate stuff?
Yeah.
So how do you, if you were trying to do like a pitch to why improv is going to be helpful to this corporation or whatever, how do you describe improv in a way that would help salesmen or something?
Well, I think it depends on what I'm trying to sell, so to speak.
Whether team building,
what it is about. Yeah, but I feel like all in all, and what I usually say is that improvised theatre and the toolkit that we get from there can help people to be better communicators, as I already said, and to help them listen more carefully, which I find is the key for so many things, and it will help people to accept things in a different way, and maybe to see the world around them in a slightly different, more understanding way.
Right, yeah, just the yes and as opposed to yes but.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
It does. It really does. And it does not mean that we would have to throw away everything else. And obviously when it comes to businesses, for example, and they have a certain agenda and what they want to accomplish. But when they add this kind of work and applied improvised tools to what they do, they kind of can create a common language and a common understanding of what they want to do. And it will help them to build that goal together.
Great. So do you have a specific teaching style? Wow.
That's an interesting question.
Well, so for instance, like when your students are doing a scene, are you the type of teacher who will let them finish the scene and do it all on their own and then give notes, or do you do like a lot of side coaching and stopping people and saying, do this instead?
I really think that it depends on the people that I'm working with, and it depends on what stage of their improv journey they're at. And I feel like it needs to be clear to me, and it needs to be clear to them what we're trying to achieve. And sometimes if it's something specific and I can help them with it during the scene work that we're doing, I might give out like certain short, hopefully very helpful cues to what to concentrate on, for example.
Would that be with or without pausing the scene?
Hopefully morely without pausing the scene.
So just saying something like, be changed.
Yeah, or like
how do you feel about that?
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah, more in terms of that. And then I feel all in all is like, we don't concentrate on, in my opinion, we don't concentrate on particular scenes. Like, this scene only is here for this one time. But what we can learn from it is to apply what we want to achieve in the future. So it has to be something general. It has to be something that can be transferred to something else, instead of, in this particular scene you should do this or that. Right. Or if you give notes after that.
Which is a lot of how like beginning teachers will give notes, like, yeah, you should have, they're all very anecdotal instead of...
That's not really helpful in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it also kind of creates rules that don't...
And I feel like this is a very interesting topic all in all, and I find it so funny in a way that we tend to, this is quite common in my opinion in the improv world, it's like we tend to teach or learn improv in a set of rules, and we have like this and this and this and this, and we should remember this and that, and don't do this, and don't ask questions, and say yes, and like all of that stuff.
Right. Don't be strangers.
And it's and I understand that we need a common kind of ground and language in order to do things, and it can be helpful sometimes, but if we use the first few years to learn these different rules, and then we try to get rid of them after that, it's just like, because then we want to be free, and we want to explore all the things that we can, and then we kind of try to unlearn everything that we've done so far. So I feel like, for me, the most important things at the moment are like, if I can give something to my students, is like, remember to breathe. I think that's the most important thing.
Right. I feel like that is still one of the things that I struggle with. So I used to get a note a lot that I would just kind of pace around and not stencil up. And then I just got that same note in the level 4 class that I'm taking at Pig. And so I'd gotten that note, months ago, and then I'd done the whole run of Who Done It. So like 2 shows a week in front of like over 100 people, and I think it was just because the character I was playing like a senator, so it was like a very like stalwart kind of character. Yeah. So it wouldn't have made sense to. But then when I got the note again in class, I was like, despite like all of the things I've learned as far as like the rules of improv, if you're like, if you're not breathing and you're like, it's like, how do you balance the nervous energy, which I think takes a lot of stage time to kind of just get used to.
Yeah.
So I think that so kind of going back to why I think a lot of coaches will like interrupt the students early on, or why they have these rules, is because they want like the beginning students to be able to do, like, have the most success doing scenes early on, because if you don't, kind of just, it's much more encouraging if when you start doing it, and so if you don't do scenes with people you don't know, don't do transaction scenes, don't ask a lot of questions, then it's like, well, that increases the probability of you having a successful scene.
No, I kind of get that, and I absolutely, and I am 100% on board with the fact that the job that I'm supposed to do is to be able to help the students to succeed or feel good about what they're doing, but also, which I find so very important in this art form, is to be able to fail. Because this is the thing, we're living in a world which is full of rules, and from the very early age we're set like to achieve things and to do well in things. And what I love about improvised theatre is like the idea of the way we are and who we are is good and it's acceptable, and we can come out of situations that we did not compute perfectly, so to speak, in a way that it's actually fine.
Right. That's why, because I feel like unlike any other art or anything, like improv really is the celebration of the human experience. That sounds so cliche.
No, but it's
because right, and it's the only thing where literally anybody is good enough to do it.
Yes.
Because you're your own unique human being.
Yes.
There's no, like, you are perfectly cast to play the person that you are playing on that stage because you are you, and you're the only person who's going to react in that same way.
Yes. And that's why I feel like what were you just saying was like maybe my approach is a bit different from interrupting all the time, but it's more about like I try to provide a safe environment where it is possible for you to explore things, and where it's possible for you to feel happy and good and not happy or not good, and all of that stuff, and through that being able to provide something that will make people feel good.
Right. Plus, I think there's also, I think there's a big difference between kind of the Johnstonian and the Del Close, two kind of schools of thought, which is one of the things that I like a lot about Johnstonian, because there are a lot of, well, they both place a lot of importance on certain skills that the other people neglect. Like I love Johnstonian because of the emphasis that it kind of has on like the zen of improv, which I hated at first. Like learning, like, I don't need the zen of improv. Like, I'm already obsessed with improv. Like, I already get agreement and positivity and stuff. But now, having studied at Pig, where there's like no emphasis on that, and it's just all like the three levels. It's like intro, then it's like game, character, herald.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of the zen of improv is also like a very cliche term, but I feel like it is true, the mindset of improv. And so I feel I like your workshops because they focus on these almost on like other things that these, like, it's, you know, it's not like it's not a reinforcing of the principles. It's like a side important issue. It's like the two that you do are, or I'm sure you do more than two, but the one you're doing here is the ensemble, building an ensemble, which is something that you're not gonna like. They're not gonna teach you in a level number, you know, like just, you know, one of the levels. And then Silence is Golden, which object work gets covered, but that's not exactly.
No, it's more about the feelings. Right. And Silence is Golden is one of my I'm not doing it on this festival, but I did that last year when I was here. Yeah. That was last year. Yes, I remember that was great. And I mean, like, it was great that you were in there. Not like, oh, it was a great workshop. But what I mean is, like, and so this year I'm doing Getting Closer, which is about romantic love and intimacy in improvised theatre on the festival. And I find that work really interesting as well. But yes, for me...
Is that the same as the ensemble?
No.
So you're doing two?
Yes.
Oh, great.
So I do the ensemble workshop for 2 days with a group of people who have never met each other before, and then after that they will come up with a show. And then
they create their own form?
We will create that together, yeah. And then there is another workshop that concentrates on intimacy in improv.
All right, so let's talk about the ensemble building for a second. So what would you say the most... So I guess it's two situations. One is a group of people who have never seen each other and are doing a show. And then the second one is a new team. So what do you think the most effective way to create that feeling of an ensemble is when you are literally like meeting each other an hour before the show, and then you guys have to do something together?
So yeah, that's a good question. So there are difference obviously, because if we have, and on this festival we have time, we have 2 days to, not a lot of time, but we have some time to get the sensation, or I don't know, the sense of a group. But then I have done a lot of the kind of work that you just described, like when, okay, we're the people who are going to do a show now. So I feel like getting connected with each other, like I'm more of the kind of improviser who likes to do things like look each other in the eyes, or breathe together, or tell each other something personal about yourself, and ask questions from the others, and concentrate on things together, instead of doing like a very high energy kind of like, oh, now we go,
passing something,
and it's fine, and it's like kind of like tomato and tomato and kind of like this. But in a way, if we want to do something together, whatever it is, it being a very high energy show like with short form blah 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 blah, or it being a very kind of like still slow bro kind of thing, the most important thing is, in my opinion, is that we're connected to each other.
Right, yeah. I feel like a lot of most of the common exercises are to get your brain moving. So it's more individual focused,
yes,
as opposed to, focusing on like building group mind.
Yeah.
And then, so what about like a new team that's formed and they know each other? Maybe they were in a class together.
Mm-hmm.
What tips would you have as far as either things to do, either like warm-ups to do at the beginning of practices, or I don't know, bonding?
Yeah, well, I think one really good thing is to spend time with each other outside improv as well. Yeah. And I feel like when we get to know, when we're forming a team, that it's something like, it depends on obviously if somebody has said like you and you, you do a team and now start doing that. So that can be a bit different, and I think that then the coach has a lot to do with how to do it as well. But then if we have a team of people, like a group of people who have come together for the reason of, oh, we would like to do something together. We have this like, ooh, we wanna try something out. So I feel like obviously in both of these cases, but especially when we have like a group of people that want to do things together, we need to get to learn each other and learn like what are these things that we like to do, and what are the things that we like about each other, and how do we, what is our goal for our, like, what do we want to do on stage, and then go on from there.
So so what do you think about the idea that in a lot of theaters, I guess more in like UCB and IO and stuff, the teams are formed by some higher up power, and so they're not people that people are choosing to do improv with.
Yeah.
Do you think that if you were running a theater, do you think you would do it in that same, and then the teams usually only last for a year, and then they're reformed, reassembled?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I am running a theater back home, which is great, but we've only started our training center this year, so we don't have that many students yet who have graduated. Like, we haven't gone through the whole program yet. But the thing is that I find like it depends. How would I say this? I think it's both good. Maybe when there is a teacher or a coach or whatever, someone who has seen the way you develop and the kind of improviser you are, maybe at some point it's wonderful to have them to choose like, oh, these people would fit lovely together and they would have a good ensemble, and that I find it's probably a good experience for everyone to learn from, surely. But then I find it very kind of satisfying when you have the chance also to like, oh, we would really much like it, because it gives it something different as well.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. There are strong benefits.
Yeah. But I do must say that something that what I feel strongly about is like improvised theatre should be a place or a society or a community where everyone is welcome, because that's the idea of improvised improv all in all. I feel like the acceptance and the group, the feeling of group. So I feel like in a way what we should be doing or what we should be avoiding is like this oh, I only want to do things with you or with you, but not with you. So that's also something that I think should be kept in mind when doing improvised theater.
Right. If everyone was just picking who they get to play with, then you lose that.
Yes, and you also lose a lot of opportunities to learn, because then you will only do things with certain people instead of being able to learn a lot more from these possibilities when you are working with a lot of different people.
And so how important do you think having a coach is if you're a team? Is that something that you would say any team should definitely have a coach?
No, I think I think that any team, if it's possible, would have someone who, not like a permanent coach really, but maybe someone who knows them or knows improvised theater and who could come and see their rehearsal sometime or come and see their show and give them an outside eye in a way. But I don't think that it's even possible. Like the situation in different countries is very different also. Like United States have even though they have even very different schools of improv and all that stuff, but they still have a different setup for a lot of things than European countries. And we don't have it's not the same kind of an idea with constant coaches. So I don't feel like it's necessary, but I think that it will add to it. And sometimes it can be, when I've been in the same theatre company, for example, for 12 years, where we have a rotating artistic director, but most of the time we're all performing. So it's like, it is a very good idea to have someone sit out of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Yes.
So going back to what you were saying about how a coach or an artistic director can pick people with complementary skills. Do you have like a specific? So there's like, do you know the what is it? Robot, pirate, ninja philosophy? Like, I think it's Billy Merrick's idea, which is like there's 3 types of improvisers. Like planners, spontaneous people, and then so that'd be robots, pirates, and then people who just like come up with great, clever moves that were needed to bring, like I think the idea is like those are kind of the 3 types. And you need one of all of them. You can kind of be a blend, but you need like one of. Do you subscribe to, or what is, or if you were putting together a team, what would be the ideal types that you would blend?
It depends. I find that it's very interesting to see different kind of improvisers together, surely, different kind of people together. But also I think that it's a fun thing to play with something like, how will we, if we form a team with improvisers who are very similar to each other, that can also be very cool or very funny or very horrible. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
But we need to, I think that we need to play with the idea of like, we can do whatever. We can try out anything at all. That's the beauty of this art form. But if I did an interview with Fenya Ortelli the other week for his improv magazine, and he was asking me to pick 5 improvisers from the world and who I would like to direct and do a show with. And so it depends on what the aim is. And at that point when he asked me about this, I picked people who I feel that all of these 5 people had the kind of sensitivity in them that I would like to work with, like see how they, even though they're different from each other. So it always depends on like what we're trying to achieve. What do we want to do?
Who were your 5?
Okay, so in this category they were Jose Gonzalez from Phoenix, Christopher Simpson from the CTC here from town.
What a compliment.
It is actually. And then Rama Nicholas from Australia, and then there was Marie-Pierre Thomas from Belgium, and Linda Gustafsson from Sweden.
Wow, Christopher Simpson's here.
I know.
Oh, no, you mentioned Jose Gonzalez from Phoenix.
Yeah.
So I was going to say he's the only American.
There were 2.
He's their favorite American.
But no. Now let me let me underline this. It was not about my favorite 5.
Yeah.
It was just in that category of what kind of work I would want to do with these 5 people. So yeah.
All right. So So what suggestion would you give to a team just starting out? So that was just spend time outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
Alright, so we kind of talked a little about silence is golden. What are the key important things that you try to focus on in that when teaching that topic?
In the silent work. Well, obviously it's a huge world. Like silence, all in all, it's a huge part of, and you can approach it in so many different ways. But I think that what I'm trying to apply is like, your mouth is very small and your body is very big. And I think that that came, literally, I think that an Italian improviser, Mico Pugliares, has said that sometime to me, like, your body is bigger than your mouth. Maybe that's the way he rephrased it some years ago. And I was like, it's so true. It's like, we just use our mouth so much. We just use our words so much, and there's so much more in us. So I feel like in the work that I'm doing it's a lot about listening to everything else. Listening to your scene partner with your eyes, and with the feelings that you have, and with the emotions, and with touching, and with all of that stuff. So it's more about finding what's really there, instead of just blabbing out words.
Right. Yeah, listening is such a, I don't want to say misleading term, but like the traditional definition of it is so auditory.
Yes.
But but when we talk about it in improv, so even like when you're first told it as a student, like listen, it's so easy to just think of it as your ears.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time when you start a scene, a lot of the time the initiation isn't the first line. It's whatever, the first strong object work that happens is usually, if I walk out and I'm smoking a cigarette in a scene, like that's the initiation.
That is initiative.
Right? It's not the first line. It's like, well, this person hasn't said anything, so therefore I will just do the idea that I had when I walked out here.
Yep. I hear you.
So do you do anything like that in the workshop where you like make them, stuff like you can't talk for the first 60 seconds of a scene and stuff like that?
Yep.
How long do you make them be silent for?
We do a lot of scenes where we don't say anything.
Anything at all?
Yeah. So we can do a scene where for like 10 minutes and not say anything with our mouths. And it's super engaging and it's super interesting because we're really connecting with each other and we're really listening to what is happening. And I find that kind of work so inspiring. And in addition to that, it also gives the audience, which is one of my favorite subjects or themes to talk about, it gives the audience the possibility to become active storytellers and to become like, they're not only being forced to understand the situation in one way. When we say, okay, you are my father and I came here today because it is your birthday and I wanted to give you this cake and things like this. But instead, if we do more silent work and if we kind of like let the situation that is happening affect us, it will give the audience members the possibility to, oh, this is what is happening, and it's true for them. Like for each an individual audience member, they have their own story now, instead of this only one story that is being fed to them. So that's what I like about silent work as well.
Oh, that's super interesting. All right, I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite improv crushes, Susan Messing.
All right.
So I know last year you went out to IO in Chicago, right, and did the summer intensive.
Yes.
And you took it with her.
Actually, in Chicago, I met her and I talked with her. We had some friends from before, and I saw one of her shows, but she was not teaching with my class. But then after the summer, I went back to Europe and I went to Sweden for a festival, and I did her and Rachel Mason's workshop, like a masterclass for 2 or 3 days, and that's when I got to work with her as well.
Awesome. Yeah, took like their duo workshop that they did. Was Susan doing the, what's it called, like protecting the weirdo?
Yes.
That one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that was such a fun workshop. It is such like a different. I think that's so cool because it's almost like the hybrid of two scene types, which is like you have your straight absurd scenes, right, where it's your straight character and your absurd character, and then you have your like peas in a pod character scenes where it's kind of like two absurd people getting off on how like crazy they are together.
Yes.
Whereas like her idea is kind of like this perfect hybrid between them, where there's a person who's being crazy, and you're not being crazy with them, but you still like think that they're great.
Yes.
And their craziness isn't making you upset like it is in a straight man scene.
Yes.
But it's not the stereotypical peas in a pod scene of like Key and Peele, like, yeah, Game of Thrones, like riding on the dragon, Khaleesi. Like, have you seen that sketch?
No.
It's just like they're two like bellboys outside of a hotel, and they're just like every time it's like they've just watched Game of Thrones the night before, so they're just like, dude, those dragons, like, and they're just like both, just like.
I like this. I need to see that sketch.
It's like the best example of that type of scene.
Yeah, no, I must say, like, I really admire Susan Messing and the kind of the ideology that she has, all in all, and I love, like, that's something that I like when you were describing what was happening. That's something that I feel quite strongly about all in all in improvised theatre, is like we tend to go for like if there is a so-called crazy person on stage, and then we that's what we do. We say you're crazy, or take your medicine, or you're drunk, or whatever, and that's kind of like taking the rug under that person in when it comes to like accepting the world that we live in. And it's sometimes it can be valid, but a lot of the time, why don't we just react to that in a way that's the normality, that's the world that we live in? It becomes so much more interesting.
Right, yeah, where like the UCB style is like the whole training is to wait for that first unusual thing, and then whatever that unusual thing is, call it out as being unusual, and then heighten it to make it crazier. Yeah, and I do so I took another like a positivity workshop, not Chris's, but another one at Pig recently. So we're kind of trying to do that in my team's practice, and like our coach kept giving us the note of like, you didn't react to that crazy thing that person did. It is tough because like it's the whole game, like, you know, the game method of doing improv is based on finding an unusual thing and then heightening that and making it more unusual, versus because the Susan thing, it's like relishing in the unusual. It's not like denying that it's unusual. It's like this is a not a great example, but I was doing this scene, so they came out and the initiation was can you believe it, I got all F minuses on my report card. I was like, well, that's not really a strong enough move for us to do like a game off of. Like, that's not really like that unusual. So instead it was just like, dude, that's awesome. Like, no one's ever gotten F minus before. Like, you got the lowest grade in history. Like, yeah. So I feel like it's instead of being like, you're such an idiot. Yeah. Why did you study? Sometimes it's much funner to be like, this is something you can tell your kids about.
Yes.
Like, you got straight F minuses. No one's ever gotten straight F minuses before.
Definitely. And I feel like all in all, what I love about this art form is like, even though I have my priorities and I have like, this is the kind of improvised theatre that I love, or this is the kind of style that I really want to do or teach or whatever, what I find is amazing is like how varied it is. Really, and we should celebrate that. And it doesn't mean that if we do an UCB kind of like, if we want to play the game and we want to find the game, let's do it. That's great. But there are so many other things to do as well. So we can do a lot of different things. And what I want to do with improvised theatre is I think that we still have it in a box, and we look into this box and say like, that is improvised theater. But what if you just open the box and let it, like, you know, flow out of the box to like everywhere? Because scripted theater is, there's so many things that you can do within that.
Right.
And so improvised theater should be that as well. And we should, I feel like we can't, of course we can't say this is the right way to do it or this is my favorite way to do it. But there's so many things to do. So let's celebrate that.
Right. It's very, I feel like it's very like sectarian might actually be the right word in improv, where it's like long form people don't think short form is legitimate, and like Del Close people don't think that Johnstonians are like doing it right, and Johnstonians don't think that the UCP people are doing it right, and then even the way that UCB and I and stuff will talk about like long form, where it's like they'll call a 25-minute Herald, no, like, oh, that's long form, but yet something like a full-length narrative play, like that still doesn't even fall into their Venn diagram of what is long form. Yeah. Even though you just went up and did
a 2-hour show with narrative,
2-hour, 2-act play.
Yep.
But it's like, but then when they do mono scenes, then they could still get to call it. it's very just like sectarian is, I guess, the good word. I feel like it is such a new art form.
Yeah, the modern form is fairly new. Yeah.
And so I wonder if, I feel like there is, I'd like to see somewhere where there's kind of a unified, or even like I'd love to see a school that had classes that were like this level, Johnstonian narrative, this Mick Napier style, this class UCB, this one is Miles Stroth and position play, and rather than having it being like, oh, here are all the levels on this, you know, we do UCB, so here are like all the levels teaching you how to do game, or we do Johnstonian, so here are all like narrative and maestro and theater sports.
Yeah. Come to Europe. We got that. No, what I mean is like, well, but it's also because of we have such a long tradition in theatre all in all, and in Europe, and I think that highly kind of affects the way that improvised theatre is being done. But it's a mixture of so many different things, and in different countries they have so many different kind of styles as well. But I feel like since we've gotten the possibility to see different things, we've got Johnstonian way, we got the UCB, we got like people come over and teach different kind of things, and that kind of forms some sort of a hybrid of things as well. But that's not basically what you were saying, like if you would have in the same school, like this is that, and now you can do like what you were describing. Yeah. But like what I really love about a lot of the European way, or about the way in Finland, for example, where I'm based at, is like we mix things up a lot. And so we have so many different things to do.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of the way I think about it as like when you're taught like psychology in like high school or in freshman year of college, and they're like, this is what behavioral psychologists, this is cognitive psychology. Yeah. And then like you step back and you're like, but clearly all of those things are half right. Like why, how can this genius, whoever, you know, like Pavlov or something, be like, no, it's definitely cognitive. I'm not even sure if I'm getting the, but you know, the
behavior. Yeah, but anyways, it's true.
But it's like, and it almost seems like that's like those people in psychology are you know, fathers of psychology, but they had these very rigid beliefs, and it's almost like that now, where you have like Matt Besser and Ian Roberts, or like UCB, and they're like Ian Roberts is so rigid about his like belief about rules in the UCB and game, and to the extent where he thinks that people who don't believe him just don't understand, and that they're still like, no, they're still following my rules, they just call it different things, versus, you know, versus like where then you'd have like Keith Johnstone. And then
when I studied at university, and I studied education, I studied in a very small group that was very kind of pioneering, and it had a lot of like integration, inclusion kind of idea of it. And I talked with the professors that that taught us a lot, and what we kind of agreed on was that the students should always get further than their teachers in a way. Like the idea in the world is like we take what we're given and we appreciate it, and that's a wonderful thing, but then we can also kind of develop it further. And I feel like when it comes to improvised theater, it's lovely that there are different, I don't know, fathers and mothers of improv, so to speak. But I feel like our job is to take what we get from them and then develop it further. Like have more variety and have more depth and have more possibilities.
Right, and obviously, I love Del Close, but there's such this reverence of Del Close and always using his quotes to do things. And have you seen Don't Think Twice?
Yes.
There's like 2 or 3 Del Close quotes like every time that Gillian Anderson is talking. It's always like Del Close once said.
Yeah.
And obviously, Del Close deserves all the props that he gets, but Del Close never even. There's so much stuff that Del Close didn't even get to experience. Like he never got to see 2-person improv, like TJ and Dave, and like Susan Messing and Rachel Mason, and all these great. He never got to see mono scenes, like also like TJ and Dave, and like he'd probably be so blown away by all that. But so then like the idea that's still going to be the most informed or most brilliant opinion when so much has happened since then that has changed the way that we do it. Like why wouldn't you think that?
Well, I don't know. It's valid, and I'm not saying like I'm not opposed to everything that has been established already.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just that these are only a few people, and there's so many other improvisers in the world, and there's so many other people in the world who have amazing
right. Yeah. Like these people built the foundation, and then everyone is just standing around being like, "This is a beautiful foundation," as opposed to being like,
"Let's explore more.
We need to build. Let's build the first floor.
Why
on
not?
top of this. Let's build another floor on top
Why
of
not?
this.
Let's do the attic. Let's build a penthouse."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's build a bar.
Yeah. So there we go.
All right. So, being attacked by a bug out here.
Yes.
We've had pretty good luck with the noise.
This is lovely.
Hopefully, some of the birds get picked up.
Yeah.
There's Christopher Simpson walking by right now.
There he is.
Let's not tell him that you. Does he know that you?
No. No, he doesn't. The interview just got out today in English, so it's originally in Spanish, and that was published last week, I think, and it's just out today now on social media. So I think I need to tell him.
He's probably going inside to Google his name
Hopefully.
Right now. He'll probably find
Yeah.
it.
Oh, great.
All right. So final question: Do you have any improv pet peeves, or like things that you just see players do all the time that you think are overdone?
Talking.
Talking.
Just, words are just words. If we react to them, then it becomes meaningful.
Sorry, audience, I was just motioning, asking Chris to take a picture of us. Hello, Christopher Simpson.
Hello, Clayton Michaud. How are you?
I'm good. How's the fest going?
Oh, man. I mean, ask Kaisa. It's sweet.
It's super sweet.
We have wonderful people here. We have great improvisers and great human beings, so it's really fun. And I'm looking forward to what the next 5 days hold.
It's going to be awesome.
Got a photo of you, too. Is that what you're looking for?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. Improv pet peeves, talking.
Well, I don't say that. I'm definitely not saying that we should not talk at all, but we should have meaning to what we're doing. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're saying we should be more deliberate with our language.
We should be more affected, all in all. We should be affected by what is happening.
So, with your Silence is Golden workshop, it's really a lot more, like it's more from the receiving end than from the giving end. Like you're saying, like be quiet and don't say as much, which allows the other person to listen more to what your body is saying and what your intentions are saying. So is it more like using the other person's silence? Is that?
I think it's both. It's like if we're both in the receiving and we're both in the giving it as well. I feel in that kind of sense. It's like
it's a full two-way street.
Yeah, it is. And when we have intention, and when we have meaning, and when we have acceptance, and when we are truly listening to everything, we get to do wonderful things, aside from whatever genre or whatever format or whatever school we're in.
All right, great. Well, that sounds like a good place to end.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. You've been listening to Improv Town. If you enjoyed this episode, rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're in the Rhode Island area, don't forget to check out all the great local improv. PIG, the Providence Improv Guild, has shows every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8. The Contemporary Theater down in Wakefield is currently doing Maestro Improv at 9:30 on Fridays and Theater Sports at 9:30 on Saturdays. The Bit Players do Short Form down in Newport every Friday and Saturday night at the Firehouse Theater, and that's BYOB, so that's always fun. You can also check out Improv Jones, Rhode Island's longest-running improv show, on the first Saturday of every month. That's down at the AS220 Black Box in Providence. Last but not least, there's a new improv theater in town, Wage House, which has shows every Friday night at 8 in Pawtucket. And many of these theaters also offer great improv classes, so don't forget to check those out as well. I'm sure Google can help you find everything you need. See you next time.